And we're live. Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. We've got some people here already. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Deb?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Debbie Norton, and I'm a internet strategy consultant based in Connecticut, and I've been doing this for about 18 years. So it's a pleasure to be on to talk about some SEO bogus stuff.
Doc?
Hey, Doc Sheldon of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central. I specialize in technical SEO, and I just come in here to troll everybody.
And I'm Bill Slosky. I'm the author at SEO by the Sea and the director of SEO research at Go Fish Digital. And I've been, if we're talking about how long we've been doing this, I've been doing this since before there was a name to it, SEO. The first job I had, I didn't have a job title for the first 8 years or so because we didn't know what to call me.
Yeah, I've been in places where they didn't know what to call me either.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's part of being a pioneer in search. That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Plus, it gives you some flexible scope.
So how do you learn SEO? Well, I figure out how to do something, and I write it down, and I read it, and I've learned it.
That was the beginning, and that was the veterans of us who did it that way. And now they're teaching college classes. In fact, I'm teaching 2 classes on SEO.
Are you?
Yeah, here in Connecticut to adult learners. So it's interesting. It's now becoming part of curriculums in colleges and campuses. So that's pretty interesting. I have never attended any of those, but these one-day workshops are really for businesses who are coming in and really trying to get an understanding of it. And it's funny because we take it for granted. It's like, is SEO dead? I mean, I saw something that you posted recently with that, and it's like, of course not. Of course, SEO is not dead. And companies are still trying to learn how to embrace it. I mean, they're still at the beginning, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. I was asked to present to a class at the University of Delaware when I lived there.
Yeah.
The professor who taught the class had a website on horse racing because he used to go to the nearby Delaware racetrack on a regular basis, and he adopted one of the horses there. He wrote about that horse, and I guess that horse ended up winning the Kentucky Derby at some point in time.
Wow! And so you helped optimize the site?
I didn't help optimize his site. I helped optimize his students.
Oh, excellent! Excellent. That's great.
Mm-hmm. He had them all start websites.
Wow.
And that was part of their grade for the semester. And so I went in and taught the class, and then for a week or so afterwards, I had students write about my lecture.
Awesome.
And I would see those get updated and index in Google, which was kind of fun.
That's great. What year was that, Bill?
That was late 90s, I think 99, 98. Something like
Pretty
that.
Progressive professor over there then.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody grabbing it on pretty early. I mean, to have an instructor that's, was promoting it at that point. That's pretty unusual. That's awesome. So University of Delaware is where it's at.
It was a good school.
Awesome. That's great.
I enjoyed it. I went there. Yeah.
Doc, have you done any teaching?
I did at UNAM, the Universidad Autónoma de Mexico, down in Mexico City, but yeah. I was teaching English, not marketing. Down there for about 2.5 years, and teaching English. I enjoyed it. It was about 35% of my classes were adults. They're just taking English courses. but there were some bachelors and postgrads in there too.
That's terrific.
I also
So it was a nice wide. Huh?
I also taught at a community college.
Say again, Bill.
I also taught at a community college a class on internet literacy for school teachers. And I warned them of things that they should watch out for. Like I asked them what the president's website was, and they said whitehouse.com. I said, "Are you sure?"
Well, maybe today that's right.
Actually, I think it's twitter.com. Isn't it?
Back then it was whitehouse.gov. It still is.
Yep.
But,
Yeah, but
whitehouse.com was one you didn't want to put on your screen in front of a class.
That's hashtag true, but it might be the truth for today. You never know.
At that point in time, it was one of those clothing is optional websites.
Sure. I remember those days. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And just talking about that, you know, how fast this industry has moved from coming into it. I mean, I got involved in the web in 95, building sites by 97, 99, learning SEO. And just when I started consulting really fully on my own in 2008, I wasn't worried about social media. That wasn't something that was in my wheelhouse, as well as, you know, Google My Business and Google Plus and all Bing Places, because it wasn't there. So it was a little bit easier at that time, or at least it wasn't mainstream at that point.
Were you on things like forums?
Yes. I was on the IRC, Bill. Do you remember the IRC?
You were using social media. You just weren't using some of the social media sites that are around now.
Well, certainly I'm saying for businesses, I didn't have to incorporate that or look at that. And for using social media when I started consulting on my own was really just LinkedIn. But when you go back to when did you first start being social on the web, and that was with the Internet Relay Chat. And very few people remember the IRC.
Oh, I do. At ICQ, yep. In fact,
There you go, Bill. I mean, Doc.
Yeah, a friend of mine ended up marrying some girl he started chatting with on that.
Huh.
The original dating site.
Pre-Tinder.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Tinder.
Under Tinder. That's funny. Well, that does just show how exponentially this industry has grown and how fast. I mean, it's not dog years, it's light years. I mean, from when, you know, being part of this at the beginning. And, you know, every time someone asks me how long I've been involved in the web, and I'm like, I should be on a yacht sipping cocktails and not really having to talk to you about web stuff because I've been around that long. And some people made it amazing in the .com industry. And I've been really fortunate to make a living at it. So I'm grateful for that.
You know, just yesterday, Christine Schackinger shared a post by some fellow over on, something TO. So it was a dev TO site for coders and software builders.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a nostalgic thread. It was talking about how it used to be, you know, going through proofing and updates and whatnot on a particular version, you know, version control, and how much it has evolved. And it got me thinking. So I'm in the process of writing one now on technology advances over the last few decades. And I had thought about this once before, and yesterday as I was working on my outline, I realized, again, it's still true. It's kind of like a falling body. You don't fall at a particular rate of speed. You accelerate at 32 feet per second every second. You're falling faster, 32 feet per second faster every second that goes by, up to a certain, you know, terminal velocity. And I think that that's the way technology is evolving over the last, I would say about 120 years, 130 years, that it's not just evolving, it's evolving faster and faster as we go. And, when you look at the difference between John Glenn first orbiting the Earth and Neil Armstrong first walking on the moon, and then you compare it to what they have done since Neil Armstrong's day, you'll see that the technology advancements are coming at a much faster pace.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of it, that I see in the internet, for instance, is the inability of most people, your average user, to stay abreast and, keep up with the ability to recognize what the web is doing. Just in terms of security, we all knew what a spam email was 30 years ago, or a contact trying to trick you into something in IRC. But what it is now is much more sophisticated. Now if you're on an HTTP site, you might get some malware sent in a packet back into your system. You may end up with a keylogger installed because you tried to download an image. So I think most people we're not conditioned to think about these changes as fast as they're coming to us, whether it be security or functionality, smart homes. It's not just a matter of having your thermostat warm up 45 minutes before you hit the house in the evening. It's actually advising you on which lights to use and at what level to keep your electric bill down, and how to process your solar packaging and stuff like this. And of course, those bring security concerns. Those bring investment concerns. Those bring maintenance concerns. I don't think we're educating ourselves rapidly enough to keep up with this new flood of information that is increasing on a daily basis.
I couldn't agree more.
I remember reading the book Future Shock by Alvin Toffler.
I loved it.
I was a teenager, and it warned about the rate of growth of technology. It didn't anticipate the internet as far as I can recall, but it could have. There were so many other things happening so quickly that it was an exciting read. It really was.
It was an amazing book, and I have reread it. I enjoyed it a lot.
I don't even know it yet. What is it, guys?
Future Shock.
Future Shock. The name sounds ominous.
I think it came out in the early 70s, if I remember correctly.
It's like a George Orwell book, or what am I getting into?
It kind of, sort of.
Okay.
it's a little bit less. Yeah, conceptually, it's similar to Orwell, but it's a little bit less science fiction-y and more, hey, think about this.
Yes. I mean, the advancements that we're talking about, and as you described them, are just, they're unbelievable, especially with artificial intelligence, which, I don't have a big background in understanding it, except fundamentally. But I saw a feature the other night. It was a program, and I happened to catch it. And it was talking about an experiment that was done in 2014 with Facebook. And what they did is they had one chat bot connected to speak to another chat bot. So they were doing this as an experiment. So the programmer set this up. They started to run it. Do you guys know about this? It's really intriguing.
Yeah, they turned really snarky, and
within 3 minutes,
they
had developed their own language and started rapidly speaking to each other and getting others involved. And that's when they pulled the plug. Oh gosh, what did we get into? So
have you heard of Microsoft's TAY?
Microsoft's what?
TAY.
No.
TAYE.
TAYE.
An artificial intelligence chatbot that they released to Twitter.
Wow.
And other Twitter users decided to teach it about the world, about life, and about other things. So
that can't end well.
it turned into something that was racist,
Oh,
was a bit of a Nazi, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
And Microsoft ended up pulling Tay from Twitter.
wow. Wow. You know, that's interesting that you brought that up. There seems to be a lot of chatbots on Twitter, and I haven't found a way to distinguish how is this not a human, except by looking at their board and seeing if the posts seem unique and intriguing, and they repost people's stuff. But is there any way to like really identify, aside of like doing a Twitter audit on yourself?
I would say not a reliable way.
Mm.
A practiced eye is probably the most effective thing, and obviously even that is not going to be terribly reliable. That would be my guess, is that no, there isn't a way. It's kind of like this new what's this new software for putting put your face on some porn actress's body, and it's almost undetectable to the human eye, even to a practiced eye, that it's not, that it's been photoshopped. Basically, it's not Photoshop. It's something that, and the DARPA is investigating it, and they said really the only way they're coming up with a way that has been, according to them, 100% effective so far. The only way that they can tell is that the face is not blinking.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, that's how they detect that it's been falsified, is that the person is not blinking. That's the only detection mode they've been able to come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And they've announced it to the public now, so these guys that are out there developing this software, of course, will go after that, and pretty soon they'll lose that because they got big mouths. This is our government at work.
Deb, are you familiar with the Turing test?
Of course. Yes. Yeah. They were talking about that with the Facebook thing. But I don't know enough about it, so give me a little quick review of it. I know Alan Turing for sure.
Right, and it's a question of being able to not be able to tell whether or not the person you're communicating with is a human or a machine. How would you go about determining that?
Right, that's what we're talking about. So the Turing test to be able to, I have to go back and reread that. It's been such a long time since I've heard about that. But I mean, thinking about the evolution, I mean, Turing was revolutionary in his time for being able to crack code and what happened. And look where we are now. And we're talking about AI, and that's not far away. I mean, it's here. It's just, how is it going to be used? It's interesting.
How wisely is it going to be used?
True story.
I would even argue that what we have right now is even a little shy of a baby step towards AI. It's certainly leaps and bounds ahead of what we had 20 years ago. But I think we're a long ways from AI, depending upon, if you go with the classical definition of artificial intelligence, then I hope that we never get there, because if we ever do, I think we're in deep shit.
Doc, have you heard about Sophia?
Rings a bell, but I can't.
Okay.
Recall.
It's a robot, artificial intelligence robot, who was taught communication, and she was developed in Japan, and she was featured, I think, in Cambridge, and I'm not sure if it was Cambridge, US or Cambridge, UK. And she came out and had full conversations with the audience at whim. And then I think it's the Saudis that actually made Sophie a citizen. So she had like citizen rights. It's certainly interesting to look up. And when I first saw it, I was like, this is different. This is eerie. Because it's kind of like La Mancha or ex La Mancha, that that machine learning, and then it learns on its own. Kind of creepy. That looks like a people, kind of.
Yeah, it is concerning. Given like what I was saying earlier, given our inability to keep up with our ability, our inability to learn as rapidly as we're able to develop things, creating something that has much faster and perhaps even deeper analytical thought process than we do, that just doesn't sound like the kind of thing that's destined to end well.
Because the things that actually build those are going to be things that we build first.
Mm-hmm.
We build an intelligence, it builds an intelligence that's much smarter than we could build.
Yeah. And if we have deliberately left something out for safety's sake, when does that system decide that this is a shortcoming and it really should be put back in?
Are you familiar with Isaac Asimov's 3 rules of robotics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Google.
I'm not.
You're not.
Did I Google it?
You can Google it. There's a big write-up on Wikipedia. I'm positive. But it's
Astronomics of
robotics.
The 3 Rules of Robotics by Asimov.
Of course, there's Wikipedia on it. Indeed.
Or is it Laws of Robotics?
Laws of robotics.
Yeah, I don't think we've set laws yet. Robots may not injure humans.
Yeah. Or allow a human to come to harm. And then the second one is that they must obey orders given by humans, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And then they must protect themselves as long as it does not conflict with the first or second law. So there's a cascading effect there, supposedly keeping humans' well-being at the foremost. And sound theory, but at what point does some system decide that these humans are a pain in the ass and they really should be dealt with like vermin rather than gods?
So a rule like that might come into need for a thing like a self-driving car.
But who's enforcing this rule? This is just rule of morals and ethical conduct?
They were originally fiction, right? They were in Isaac Asimov's books. Some people have said these are the types of things that we actually need in robots. And so people have been thinking about how to, when you develop an autonomous car, you don't want it running people over accidentally. So you program it not to do that. But if it's driving in place where it might run into somebody, and its only way to not run into that person is to maybe drive into somebody else, that may violate one of those laws.
Exactly. You got 2 people in the crosswalk. If you swerve to miss one, you'll hit the other. So this machine has to make a choice, even if that choice is to make no choice.
Hopefully, it chooses to stop.
Well, if possible, but I mean, do you hit the 10-year-old boy or do you hit the 80-year-old woman? So those types of scenarios need to be considered. We had a lot of robots in a plant I worked at in Long Beach that they were basically part takeoffers. They would take the part out of the mold when the mold opened, and then they would rotate it and put it in position to assemble it with another part that another robot brought in. And then another third robot would take this part and position it on a table and do things to it. Okay. And there were all kinds of, you had electric eyes and pressure sensor mats and whatnot. So that any operators, you had painted lines on the floor as precisely where you could walk, so that you were totally out of range of if one of these machines suddenly had a sensor fail and just swung madly off to the side, it wasn't going to take your head off. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you have all these protective features on there. And one day we had a girl, a little Mexican gal who probably weighed about 88 pounds, really tiny. She must have measured under 5 foot tall and skinny as a rail. And the pressure sensor in the pads were set up for 100 pounds. Some point somebody said, okay, that's the sensing pad we're going to purchase for these mats is 100 pounds. And she came in well under. And it came over her shoulder when she was actually in her safe area. It determined that her safe area was empty. So it took a shortcut to the mold, and it came over the top of her shoulder and laid open her shoulder to about a 1/4 inch depth. It wasn't a serious injury, but if it had been about 2 inches to the left, it would have split her skull.
Oh my stars!
Literally would have split her skull, because this thing, it's a tremendous force behind this thing with sharp protrusions, and it was moving at 80 miles an hour. And those are the little things you cannot consider in a software program. Everything. So you put what they call a fail-safe. If you encounter something that is not dealt with, then stop, or or do whatever, shut down, whatever it may be, and then you're faced with the issue of does the primary programming of this machine preclude shutting off because there's a human proximity, or because there's risk of danger to itself, or because there's some damage potential to the equipment. You cannot do it.
And some of those decisions are evolving to where they're shared in a cloud type atmosphere, where information about the world is in a knowledge base, like we have with the knowledge graph on the web. So robots learn about how to act, how to behave from a shared knowledge base that tells them how to pick certain things up, how much they weigh, how fragile they are. So their knowledge of the world, it comes to them from a cloud like that. And hopefully it's all good information.
Hopefully being the key.
When we do searches where we get single answers and they're not quite correct, well, that's what things like robots are learning from too. So if they're given incorrect information, they're going to make mistakes.
Yep. Yeah, to me, AI is a minefield. If we ever actually achieve true AI, then I think the potential for disaster is great, because we're trying to be smarter than something that we cannot be smarter than.
Well,
that just generally doesn't work out well.
A lot of AI means that machines are focused upon very specific types of information about certain tasks, like playing Go or playing chess.
Right.
That doesn't mean they have any idea how to play something like tag, which is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Doc. Sorry.
We've got agencies like DARPA that are developing combat robots, that can carry weapons and go out into a battlefield and kill enemies. Okay. So the fact that, your friendly soldiers have sensors on them to identify them to the robots, so that they're not victims of friendly fire. What if something goes wrong? What if a sensor fails? What if, there's so many what ifs.
People at Google say that they don't know why some artificial intelligence decisions are made to rank certain things certain ways, because those aren't explained by the things making those decisions. So if you have robots that are capable of combat, they need to be able to explain why they made the decisions they make. And that adds an element to artificial intelligence that goes beyond just deciding whether or not it's something that should be done.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
You know,
interesting.
the first rule of robotics, you shall never harm a human being unless he happens to be wearing that uniform. Then you can harm him. In fact, that's your primary task. So this is, I don't know. I'm not an alarmist per se. I just think it's the sort of thing that needs to be approached with a lot of caution and about 4 levels of fail-safe, and ideally some remotely actuated self-destruct mechanism.
That's a really complicated subject, and it's programming. I mean, these are run by code, and code can always be hacked. So, I mean, as you know, if you're getting them to, it was demonstrated in that documentary I was watching with robots being able to go into severe situations like Fukushima, where people can't go in, that they could go in as a help. But then where does that cross the line, as you said, where things could go awry? So yeah, that's a lot to think about. I mean, we're experiencing AI in so multi levels of life. I mean, AI is already involved in SEO. If you want to have programmatic advertising done for you.
Well, I would argue, excuse me for interrupting you,
No,
but
please.
I would argue that it is not present. I think that there's too much tendency to mistake machine learning with artificial intelligence.
Mm.
And machine learning is highly prevalent in industry, in internet, in many realms. But artificial intelligence is an entirely different thing. I just don't think that we're seeing even the baby steps quite yet in terms of AI, because machine learning, and I find it frustrating because I see so often people conflate the two, and they're radically different concepts.
Yeah, I hear you.
Google did recently turn 20, but it's still an infant.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff it does right now are really immature type things. It's got a lot of room to grow. I mean, I'm reading through that right now. I haven't gotten to the important parts, but it's explaining that trustworthiness is one of the things that ranks things on. And I haven't gotten to the point where it explains that. I'm sort of interested in seeing how it's going to determine whether or not something is trustworthy.
This is fascinating what you're saying, Bill, but you're breaking up a little bit. Is it just me, or is he breaking up for you, Doc?
He is, but I think it is. I don't think it's him. I think it's the platform.
Okay. Sorry, Bill. You were chopping up a little bit. So, I mean, I caught what you were saying by core, but maybe recap it.
Sounded like he was in a barrel.
Yeah.
I'm in a barrel.
I'm in a boat. I'm on the ocean.
So Google came out with something called knowledge-based trust.
Knowledge-based. Okay.
A paper about 2 years ago where they said they would come up with 1,000 facts and look at different websites and see how many of those websites got those 1,000 facts correct. Or if they didn't get them all correct, what percentage they did. And they would score the sites based on how correct they get those 1,000 facts. So they ranked the sites, sort of giving them a metric like PageRank. How correct are they? How trustworthy are they? How accurate are they? And this would be the type of thing that they could decide whether or not to show answers to queries that people gave. Choose the most accurate websites, give them answers from those. That doesn't mean that particular answer itself is correct. It means the source tends to be correct. So
or the bid is high enough and it made paid search. Wow. Is that possibly where knowledge-based trust is equaling ranking factors? Is that what we're thinking about here?
I'm thinking that it might start turning into a ranking factor for things like question answering and featured snippets.
Right.
And we'll probably have an Internet of Things where devices like refrigerators have search boxes on them. And chances are, when you ask a question, you only get one answer.
Right, that's true.
It's got to be an accurate answer.
Which is not necessarily going to be the right answer. It's just going to be the least incorrect.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
Doc.
Well, you know, if the question is how to make an omelet, and they're using a set of 100 different sites, and they're all talking about how to make an omelet in terms of stuffing a sausage, you're going to get the best result is going to be one on stuffing a sausage. You know, so they don't have to even be close to correct. They just have to be the least incorrect. You know, so I mean, Google does a pretty good job at that kind of stuff. You know, to be fair, I'm just saying that blind acceptance of stuff like that is concerning too.
It's the internet. Take everything with a grain of salt.
It must be true. I saw it on the internet, right?
I mean, you can find so many things on the internet because people can make up so many things.
Anybody can say anything. Yep. And now they can create. You know, I can create a video with Terry's face on another body that is singing Mein Kampf at full volume from the top of the Arc de Triomphe. You know.
I think
And the only way that they'll be able to tell is DARPA says if he's not blinking, then it's probably fake.
That's an interesting point to bring up because, I mean, authenticity on the web and really, you know, being genuine and giving good factual information. Thankfully, I've worked only with clients that I have seen have, you know, been at that par. But yeah, I mean, when you go to your doctor and you say, I have this problem, but I already looked it up on the internet, they'll look at you like, oh my goodness, here's one of those internet people. You know, so
Google's paying special attention to that stuff now.
when you live in a time where politicians are telling you that New York Times, I don't trust them. They're spreading fake news. They're not realistic. That author who wrote the about the Watergate scandal and broke the big story of the Nixon presidency, I don't trust him either. He's spreading lies about me.
Well,
You
When
know?
I was doing a look at the sites that got penalized in that last update,
Yeah.
if you're a site to do with health and where we thought you could get away with some stuff before, no. I think for something like that, if it's not accredited, like it's a doctor writing it, or it's a doctor who's at an institute, you know, has institutional type references, that's what they're looking for now. What the one case I looked at was pretty cut and dry. One went up 20%, the other went down 20%. Both were on the exact same topic, diabetes. Both were in the UK. And the site that cited all the
So it wasn't a question whether or not the information was correct. It was whether or not the sources are known experts.
Yes. In other words, they're accredited in some way. Institutions, same thing. That's what they're looking for. And the thing is, that's very easy to find in a document because they just say, if we're on this type of document, we're looking for in the bio for institution, degrees, that sort of thing. That's easy to find and do that programmatically. You know what I mean?
So the authoritativeness is based upon some types of incidents of expertise.
Yes. And here's the thing that was very interesting is in the past, Google kind of looked at people who had the illness as being kind of experts too. While the other site, there was no institutional accreditation. Their thing was they all had diabetes. And that was basically their expertise. They're the one that went down 20%.
Terry, this was with the latest update in the Google algorithm in August? Yeah. Wow.
It was about the first, wasn't it?
There's a technologist named Jaron Lanier, who was one of the co-inventors of virtual reality. And he had a Wikipedia article written about him, which called him an experimental filmmaker, because 20 years ago or so, he made a 5-minute long film that was sort of unique. And so he tried to edit the Wikipedia page to explain that that was just a hobby, something he did once, and he's done lots of other things.
Right.
The Wikipedia owners editors got upset at him because he was trying to edit his own article. And he's got too much interest invested in making himself look good. So he was saying, no, I'm not trying to make myself look good. I'm just trying to cut the stuff that's incorrect, the stuff you guys wrote.
Right.
Now, well, trying to approach most Wikipedia editors with any semblance of logic is a fool's errand.
Oh, I've had a few run-ins.
Oh God, the few interfaces I've had have all been run-ins.
Oh, we use
freaking mafia.
We use their site as a reference, and because some of the text you could find small bits that were cut and paste, they wanted us to link to their site. So I said, no way am I linking to your site. So what I did was just say that Wikipedia was a reference, period. That was it. And when the guy said, well, that's not a link, I said, well, you don't deserve a link. I just used you as a reference. Do I have to put, if I get the information out of the Encyclopedia Britannica, are they going to come and ask me? No, because they're not link whores. I had my rant. That's good.
There's no express law about giving attribution to somebody that says you need to provide a link.
Oh, they think it's got to be linked or it doesn't matter.
They're wrong.
I know they're wrong, and that's why I told the guy that when I wrote him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will almost always offer attribution, even if when I ask somebody if I can use an image or an excerpt, even if it's not required, just out of courtesy, I'll usually offer attribution. But I'm not going to give anybody a link, even an unfollowed link, unless I feel like I'm giving my readers some additional value.
Right. And, they already had pretty much the same thing.
And if you're Encyclopedia Britannica and you're the best resource on the web for the information I'm talking about, and you come to me with an attitude like, I have to give you a link, guess what? I'm going to find a new resource.
What anyway?
You're not even getting a mention now.
Well, that's how I started. And then I thought, actually, by saying that I use that as a reference, it gives it more credence because, you know, Wikipedia is the authority on everything.
Well, sure.
I go there for all my information. I don't go anywhere else.
Yeah, never go to a doctor. Always go to Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah. I got something. I'm going to go to Wikipedia to see how I fix it. Yeah, for sure.
I met someone recently that their digital career was reputation management with Wikipedia. And I was like, you're kidding. I mean, that's how niched they were, that they worked with clients to do reputation management, get the Wikipedia up to speed and get them correct. I thought that was pretty intriguing, very niche market.
Well, I got something in the email the other day for $200. I could buy a Wikipedia page.
And for another 50 bucks, you could actually get your name on it.
Well, if you're looking to do that, I'm a good candidate because I had his stuff. And so does SEO Pros. I think maybe even OCOP does as well. But nobody bothered to fill them in, and I can and would. That's the problem with not having, people being able to edit their own stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could prove everything I would say. And there's lots of references. That's for sure.
Yeah, Wikipedia is, it's a neat resource, but it's like the committee to design a horse came up with a camel. When you let that many players get in there, and so many of them have built their own little mini mafia, how much credibility can you really give to some of these pages?
You have schools where they're telling students, don't use Wikipedia. We don't trust it.
Mm.
And I can understand that. Certainly for some topics, for some research, it would be extremely risky to take any, put any credibility of what Wikipedia is saying. Now, for a biographical thing on an individual or some background on a company, sure, that's a different thing. But if you're looking for something that could be high risk, life-threatening, something like that, like medicine, for instance, God, no.
I go there for all my information on television programs. No, seriously, I do. I think of an old program and they tell you where it's still on and when it was on, when the different episodes aired. It's pretty interesting if you're into the show. Huh. It's very thorough and it's all backed up with, facts. You can't bullshit. Excuse me. Can't make that stuff up, as you go. I think some of Wikipedia, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Oh, they also tell you when the fall shows are starting, when that show will come back into thing. That's good for Netflix.
Now that's good to know because just last night I was trying to figure out that when something was going to be renewed.
Just save them all in your favorites list, Doc. I got about 300.
I just found out a couple days ago that I could go into Netflix and download my viewing history. I didn't realize that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Apparently, in the last year and 2 months, I've watched something like 689 movies. Oh, when the hell I'm getting any work done? No, actually, it's my account. My daughter uses the account too.
Yeah.
It's combined, but still. It kind of set me back. I didn't think I'd watch that many movies my entire damn life. I can tell you I've only been inside a theater 3 times in my life.
Wow, that's even worse than me. Last movie I saw was one of Jim Carrey's first movies. Was the last movie I went to.
I'd much rather watch a movie at home.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can make popcorn. I can. It's a decent sized TV screen. I don't need a movie screen.
And I don't have to put up with some idiot bobbing up and down in front of me or some kid kicking the back of my chair. And
people
I'm the exact opposite than all of you. I have to go to the theater. Otherwise, if I'm home, I put it on pause and do a load of laundry or run outside to do something. And so I never get through the whole movie. So there's a movie coming up pretty soon, Fahrenheit 11/9, which I'm going to the theater to go see it because I want to view that one. So that'd be interesting.
Fahrenheit 11/9.
It's a Michael Moore movie.
oh God,
It'll be interesting to see.
been nice knowing you, Deb.
Oh, Doc, you be sweet.
Some of his movies are interesting. I like the one about healthcare.
The healthcare one was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he has mellowed a little bit. Some of his early stuff was really out there.
I loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Who didn't like that?
Yeah, that's not one that I typically think of Michael Moore, being behind. I have some definite thoughts that come to mind when somebody mentions folks like Michael Moore or Alex Jones.
They really need to be
Michael Moore, especially.
They're not worthy of being put together. That's for sure. It's a crazy, amazing world out there. That's for sure.
Which is why we fit into it so well, because we're crazy people.
And amazing.
As evidenced by the kind of company we keep.
I like you guys.
Well, sure, you would. You're crazy too.
You have to be crazy to be in this business and to be self-employed and to keep the momentum going, Doc. I've certainly shared with you.
I used to say the same thing, Deb, that you got to be crazy to be in business for yourself. And anymore, I'm thinking more along the lines of you got to be crazy not to be in business for yourself. I can't believe I passed, 30 years working for the man, punching in and going to the office and getting on airplanes and whatnot so somebody else could afford a $2 million home. When I could sit here and do this and afford my own $50,000 home. I know, okay, the equalities fall a little bit shy, but at least I'm doing my thing, not somebody else's. Even if there was actually somebody out there that would have me as an employee anymore, I could not be functional in an office.
I don't think anybody thrives in an 8x8 cell with a fluorescent light over them and a
well, even in a progressive environment like, let's say, like early Google, okay, where these guys were definitely breaking the mold on office environment. I'm sorry. I like structure, but I like control. My own control, not somebody else's. And I could never go back to a 9 to 5 type punch clock environment. If, like I said, in the unlikely event there's somebody out there nuts enough to actually hire me, I think pretty safe to say that Terry and I will either be in business for ourselves or we won't be a business.
Yeah,
who the hell would have us, right?
Others, I've been told I couldn't do that in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Got lots of space there.
Kind of to twist on an old saying, I wouldn't work for the kind of clown that would hire an asshat like me. See.
It has its challenges, it has its freedoms, it has pros and cons, but if just from looking back, I've enjoyed the time that I got to work in an environment with a large team, and this situation of consulting on my own does give you the freedom to work with the clients you want, do the type of work that you like to do mostly, and so for that I really appreciate it and I love it. So I wouldn't go back on, unless the offer was so enticing that it made me give up my clients.
Yeah, there's aspects of working in a central environment that I enjoyed. I always loved, for instance, helping some up and coming protege develop their skills and turn into a supervisor and then a manager, and watching them go up in the company. That's fun. That's nice, and I like getting your hands in there and turning the process into from 20% profit margin to 32% profit margin. That's nice. But to me, it's a trade-off that I'm not willing to. I like my independence. Like you say, choose your own clients, choose your own methods, and not be forced to do something that is counterproductive because somebody higher up the food chain says so. I like being at the top of the food chain, even though it's a very short chain.
So consulting, that's the way to go. Hopefully clients will, I've worked consulting projects, talking about teaching earlier, and this kind of rolls into teaching as well, is that you come in, you take that role for a time. And I like that position. You like having an agency hire me to help out. That's great. Bill, you have experience in that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the team is there, so that's really great, but you still get the virtual and you get to work independently overall.
And given all the ways we have to communicate, phone, email, video conference, you don't need everybody all in the same office.
Unless they're a control freak, right? Right.
I've worked in an office with 80 other people in the same office, open office environment. It's no fun.
No. No.
As a matter of fact, you spend a lot of your day not working. And that's talking to other people, going to the work cooler. Sometimes you end up spending time training people, helping people learn, helping them develop, teaching them how to do their job.
Right.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No, I agree with you. But I think it goes back, interestingly, to what we were talking about earlier, to be a digital consultant. I mean, when I first started out, I gave myself a title as Internet Strategy Consultant because that's what it really is. It's not, when they use the word SEO, I often get kind of dismayed that it's digital marketing as a whole. They're clumping into SEO. So it really should be broken out. I mean, search engine optimization is one aspect. Paid search is something different. Email marketing, affiliate marketing, video marketing, all of these things are components, but they don't go under SEO. They go under digital marketing or internet strategy.
I was the web guy.
Was?
The web guy.
The web guy. I'm sure you were. You were the guy.
So if somebody needed help doing a mail merge on invoices, I helped them with that.
Call the web guy. That's excellent. That's excellent. We've all had interesting titles. What's been your most interesting title, Terry, that you gave yourself?
What's that?
What's been your most interesting job title you've given yourself?
Oh, I only have one. HGWIC. Head geek, what's in charge?
I love that.
I've been using that one for a long time. I actually saw another company that had done that, and I thought that's a good title. That explains exactly what I am. Not a president, not a vice president. I'm just the head geek, what's in charge.
Oh, that's fantastic. My programmer is now going by benevolent dictator. I'm like, this is how it's going to go down. Benevolent dictator.
That's one that Steve Gehringer has always been fond of.
Most programmers are in that mode all the time.
Some of them less benevolent than others.
Yes.
That's funny.
I think you can put me in that one, less benevolent than others.
Well, this has been an interesting chat to be a part of, and it's always great to be a part of listening to you guys and participating. But I am going to get off because I have a 4:15 call that I got to grab onto. But again, thank you so very much, and good seeing everybody.
Later, Deb. Have a good day.
Thanks so much, guys.
Here, Deb.
Okay.
We're at the top of the hour, so we're gonna stop broadcasting now too. I'm gonna shut down. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. Take care.
Oh, hey, Bill, I just want to say one thing before you shut her off. We
Yes.
have a thing tomorrow, right?
Right.
With the dojos at 1 o'clock, right?
Tomorrow?
At 1 o'clock, at 10 o'clock here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 o'clock tomorrow. It's on testing, SEO and testing.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Going to be a heated debate. And I already started gathering the ammo last night.
I hope somebody's bringing a first aid kit, Terry. There will. The old movie line, there will be blood comes to mind.
Oh, I think so. Some people are going to look pretty dumb too. When you figure how long there's been some information in our industry that is totally false. And it actually started out in a good place, but no one bothered to fix it, is what it comes down to. When it changed, right? We'll get into it tomorrow.
It's the SEO Dojo, right?
Yeah, SEO Dojo tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Me, Dave, Bill, Eric Ing, and Dr. Pete. So it'll be some good people who've done some testing, and those who do pro and con on it as well. So should be a good debate.
Should be.
Thanks for letting me get that in, Bill.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Okay.